All right, so the question says, reread lines 56 to 59. What does the sentence suggest about one of the themes in this myth? So it's very specific lines that they're referencing, and then they're asking you, based on those specific lines, okay, what is the theme? As they flew across the land to test their prowess before setting out across the dark wild sea, plowmen below stopped their work and shepherds gazed in wonder, thinking Daedalus and Icarus were gods. Okay, so what we're seeing in this question is that Icarus and his father are flying above all of the rest of people in society. Okay, and as they're doing this flying, the people, one second, as they're doing this flying, the people down there are looking up and they're like, oh wow, were those gods that just flew above us? That's crazy. Okay, so they're looking at these two people and wonder, but they're just humans. Okay, now after that, we see that Icarus continues to go higher, he's accelerated, he's feeling good with his ability to fly, and he suffers the consequence. But this initial part was maybe one of the catalysts in him going higher and higher. He was getting the admiration of the people that were down on the fields working and doing their own thing and looking up and being like, wow, look at that, those gods flying. And because of that, and his behavior of not following the instruction and continuing to go higher and higher and higher with that feeling of prowess, with that feeling of acceleration, he suffered the consequence. The lesson that we learn, remember that theme is the lesson that we learn, okay, is that we should know our place in society, okay, or we should not compare ourselves to the gods or attempt something that is not for humans or for us to do. Okay, so that's one of those possible lessons that we can get specifically from this section of the text, where the main problem is that Icarus and his father are presenting themselves as gods to the people below. And in their society, that idea of humans being similar to the gods is taken as hubris, as excessive pride, or as trying to be equals with the gods, and is unacceptable. Make sense? Yes. Yes. So that any answer that has to do with hubris, with pride, with making a comparison of yourself to the gods, or trying to be on equal grounds, any answer that goes like that would be correct. Okay. So the main theme of the story, based on our discussion, was the idea of your emotional brain versus the logical brain, and how logic can conquer over emotion. Okay? Sorry? The two sides of the internal battle of humanity, okay? And which side you're going to listen to. Obviously, the Greeks had the belief or the predisposition to choose the logic over the emotional side or the passion side. Because that worked better for civilization, that worked better for what we actually want to achieve in life or society. So we can go with that. That would be one of the main themes that we learn. And in addition to that, we some of the other side themes, we also do have the, not practicing hubris, not breaking promises. What else? Not trying to terrorize a group of people if you're the leader. all of those are themes that are there, but they're smaller themes in comparison to the idea of brain versus brawn, or mind versus emotions, and everything like that. Yes, makes sense? A little bit? The second part would be a little bit of what I was saying before, where if Theseus represents intelligence, represents civilization, represents the hero, he represents all of these positive ideas, and the Minotaur represents savagery, represents monstrosity, or just physical strength, but maybe not mental strength. Okay, then by Theseus winning over the Minotaur, what that represents is what I was saying before, right? Where the logic, the civilization, the hero conquers the monster, the emotions, the physical strength with no mental ability, and shows us then that the Greeks value these ideas, these aspects of mankind over these other things, like which we do experience. Everyone has emotions, everyone experiences anger, love, passion, etc. But should we live our lives according to that? Or should we live our lives according to logic, civilization, democracy, the law? Okay? So all of those, that's kind of the idea that's presented by what each character is a symbol for, and then the victory of one over the other. Remember that a theme is a lesson, so yes, the topic is logic versus emotion, okay, and the theme, you would say it as a lesson. So what's the lesson that we learn? We can learn the lesson that emotion can be conquered by logic, or we can learn something like that. Something along those lines would be what you want to focus on. The lesson that you can put into practice. So, and again, I will repeat, a lesson is usually a sentence or something that you can tell to someone else. So if all that you're saying is a topic, then that's not really a lesson. It's like if I said, well, today guys, the lesson was Theseus and the Minotaur. Is that what you learned? You learned Theseus and the Minotaur? No. What you learned was something about that story. Okay, today's lesson was, what was the theme of Theseus and the Minotaur? Now that's a sentence. That gives you a clear idea. So the same thing applies to when you guys are giving your answer about a theme. Okay? You're giving a sentence according to the topic that you feel is the theme. So a little checklist of the things that are important to know. If I forget something, please remind me. So number one, you want to know what is a theme. Okay? You want to know what is the theme, and you want to know that for both of the stories. What is the main theme for both of the stories that we're being tested on? Number two, you want to know what's the function of myths in Greek society. Why did they use myths? What was the purpose? What was the function? Okay. Three, you want to know or make a connection between the myths that we're looking at and the lessons or the beliefs of the society that told those stories. What were they trying to teach the members of the society through these stories? That's important. Okay? You want to make sure that you understand a little bit of characterization. So how are the characters portrayed in the story? All of the characters, and have evidence as to how they're portrayed. So for example, let's say that maybe Icarus is presented as immature, or a child, or very rash and emotional in his decision-making process. Then you want to have evidence of that. For example, some of you guys in the question that addressed that said like, oh, he was playing while his father was building the tools for escape. That shows us that he was maybe a little bit immature or not ready. Okay, those things are what you want to be aware of. Let's see, is there anything else? Okay, you want to be aware of the meaning of hubris and how hubris is present in both of the stories. Okay, so remember that hubris is the feeling of excessive pride or the belief that you are in similar standing to the gods, and in their society it's bad to have those thoughts or to believe that. And I think, generally speaking, those are some of the main ideas in addition to everything that we discussed in class. So if you, yes. Thank you for the reminder. Boom, Mia, that's awesome. So yes, two things according to what Mia said. Sorry, I almost forgot the literary devices. So you want to be able to explain and identify dramatic irony, whether it is in the story or in another outside example. You want to be able to understand what it is. Or I could give you a situation and ask you to explain what is the dramatic irony in that situation that might have nothing to do with the story. But it's just, I need you to be able to understand the concept of dramatic irony. And I'll repeat it now just as a reminder. So dramatic irony is what creates that feeling of drama, what we would call drama now, where the audience knows something that characters in the story do not know. That is dramatic irony. We know something that characters in the story do not know. And it can be one character or it can be many characters. Make sense? Exactly. It could be one character doesn't know, or it can be all characters don't know and only we know. Either way, that's still dramatic irony, because the fact that we know and they don't builds a certain expectation of what's going to happen next. Okay, creates that feeling of intrigue because you know something and you're waiting to see, are they going to find out, or are they never going to find out, or what's going to happen. Make sense? Okay, so that's dramatic irony. Sorry, go ahead. Exactly. So the thing that creates the drama is that we don't know whether they will find out or not. But it creates the feeling of wanting to know. So yes, you could say that they don't know yet. Okay? And then the other idea would be the idea of foreshadowing. Okay? Foreshadowing is the idea of us, or we, making predictions about what's going to happen in the story based on the clues that they give us through the story. So when you foreshadow something, is that you make a guess about what could happen, but you're basing that guess on the evidence, on the information of what has happened in the story until now. Make sense? Excellent, okay? So in this case, because of the discussion that we had this year is going a little bit beyond that, I wouldn't say that that's the main theme, but yes, it is a theme of the story, where if King Aegeus had not jumped to conclusions too fast, or had thought twice instead of acting emotionally, maybe he would have realized like, oh, well, it was just a mistake, my son is still alive, and then he wouldn't have committed suicide. So yes, okay, you can say that that is one theme in the story, besides the idea of being emotional versus being logical. But if you notice, as I explained, it kind of stands right under that, because the reason why he didn't think twice is because instead of being logical, he used his emotions to make a decision. Make sense? Yeah. You mean the grades? Okay, yes. By today you'll have your grades back for the Theseus and the Minotaur evaluation, so you can use that to review. Of course. So the themes, the good thing about themes, and especially now that you guys are in high school, is that I am not going, like, unless I ask what the main theme is, then main theme is only one. But if I just ask you, can you share one theme of the story? You can pick any lesson that you feel the story has to teach. The only thing that's important is that you're able to provide the evidence to back up your idea. Okay? So if I just ask you for any theme, could you share one theme of this particular story? You can choose any theme that you want. The only thing is, as I said before, right, as we've been working on this term, you give the answer, what the theme is, you give the evidence showing how you came to that conclusion, and then you give the explanation, explaining how the evidence connects with the lesson that you're claiming that the reader can get from this story. So if you're doing those three things, and the question is regarding any theme, then you're good. Now, if the question is regarding the main theme, then it's important to focus on that one thing. The main theme was, yes, moderation was the main theme for the Flight of Icarus, and then the following the advice, following your place in society or not committing hubris, those are secondary themes. But the main theme, as Andrea said, thank you for the correction, is to do things in moderation.